What are the most interesting domino effects in history? From Wikipedia, this is probably my favorite that escalated quickly. In 80 AD, Flavius Josephus recorded the first known incident of mooning. Josephus recorded that in the procuratorship of Ventidius Cumanus, 4852 AD, at around the beginning of the First Roman-Jewish War, a soldier in the Roman army mooned Jewish pilgrims at the Jewish temple in Jerusalem who had gathered for Passover, and spake the but that caused 10,000 deaths. Star Trek Voyager was not as well received as previous Star Trek series. In 1997, producers decided to add a new character in an attempt to boost ratings. Actress Jeri Ryan was brought in to play 7 of 9. Jeri's frequent separations from her husband, Jack Ryan, due to her acting schedule contributed to their decision to divorce in 1999. In 2004, Jack Ryan became the Republican nominee for an open Senate seat in Illinois. During the campaign, the proceedings from Ryan's divorce became public and contained details of his sex life that did not make him look good. The scandal forced Ryan to drop out of the Senate race in July, leaving the GOP time to only find token opposition to Democratic nominee Barack Obama. Obama's landslide victory in the Senate race helped launch him onto the national stage, allowing him to pull off an upset victory in the 2008 Democratic primary and win the presidential election. TLDR. The lackluster writing of Star Trek Voyager helped pave the way for the Obama presidency. This is the kind of content I was hoping to read. George Lucas really wanted to make a Howard the Duck movie, and after ROTJ, he had the pull to do it, but Howard the Duck lost George Lucas so much money that he had to sell the animation part of Lucasfilm. He sold it to Steve Jobs, and it later became Pixar. Then Pixar was bought by Disney, which later bought Lucasfilm. As a boy, Satoshi Tajiri liked to run around in fields and meadows and catch and collect different insects. As a young man working for a video game company, Satoshi learned that the fields and meadows he used to play in were being developed for urban purposes. Realizing that many children are never going to have the same experiences as he did, he decided to create a video game that simulates going around in tall grass and catching and collecting bugs. That video game is now known as Pokémon. During the First World War, in an attempt to destabilize the collapsing Russian Empire, the German Empire allowed safe passage for known revolutionary Vladimir I. Lenin from his refuge in Switzerland to the Finland station in St. Petersburg. Roughly 30 years later, Nazi Germany would be beaten into the ground by the armies of the Soviet Union. The nation Lenin had successfully formed before his death. Germans done goofed. I wanna say they were screwed either way. If they hadn't sneaked Lenin into Russia, they probably would have lost World War I even sooner than they did. Matt Groening's comic Life in Heck caught the attention of James L. Brooks, who wanted to adapt it as a short for the Tracy Ullman Show. Groening was afraid of losing the rights to his characters and that the show would fail and take down his comic. He pitched a new idea. While waiting in lobby of James L. Brooks' office, he came up with the idea for The Simpsons and quickly sketched the family out and pitched that instead. As we all know, The Simpsons became a huge success and has been going on for more than 30 years and is the longest running American primetime scripted television series with over 662 episodes and many Emmy Awards. It never would have happened if Groening hadn't been afraid. And on the Halloween specials, he is always credited as James Heck Brooks. In the early 20th century, there was an issue of humidity in printing press rooms causing the ink to run. A man named William Carrier invented a dehumidifier to suck the moisture out of the air, and it worked. The ink dried faster and stayed dry, and as an unseen side effect it kept the rooms cooler too. Thus the precursor to the modern air conditioner was inadvertently invented. At first it was only used for industrial purposes, and it wasn't until after World War II that smaller units were manufactured and made readily available to the public. This led to a huge migration of city-dwelling folks from the north to more rural areas. Conservatives retirees were settling in the south without having to worry about discomfort from the heat and or heat-related injuries for the elderly. This caused a huge shift in electoral college votes from north to south. Another side effect of air conditioning was when it started being put in movie theaters. Before, being crammed in a room with a bunch of other sweaty people to watch a movie just wasn't enjoyable. Once theaters could be cooled, it became way more popular to go to when it was sweltering hot outside. Thus, the summer blockbuster movies became not only a device for entertainment but also a way for pop culture to shift the political climate. During the Vietnam War there weren't very many pro-military movies since the general population was pretty much against the war. It wasn't until George Lucas came out with the Star Wars trilogy that people were able to enjoy heroic stories of battle and triumphing over evil. It was around the second Star Wars movie that a man named Ronald Reagan was campaigning his plans on how to deal with the evil empire known as the Soviet Union. The Democrats, in an attempt to make his missile defense plan sound silly, dubbed it Star Wars. This had the opposite effect because people thought it sounded cool. People also resonated with the rebels trying to overthrow an oppressive government the same way that Ronald Reagan was taking on big government in America. In 1980 Ronald Reagan was elected president. So in an effort to keep ink smearing on the pages of newspapers in the printing press room, it set off a domino effect that led to Ronald Reagan being elected 40th President of the United States. We're still fighting over events that can be traced back to the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, ignoring the fact that it wasn't World War I until we had the second one. There was the Cold War, Korea and Vietnam, and the Israel-Palestine debate, to name a few. I feel like even if he wasn't assassinated, the existing tensions would have led to a war of some sort anyway. I really need to remember to stop clicking on history posts on as credit. There's just so much bad history, as in and true, that gets tossed around as fact. British officers in India during the 18th century were eating quinine powder to treat their malaria. The powder was so bitter they mixed with their club soda. They brought it back to the UK and they started putting it in their gin. Hence gin and tonic. Also resulted in the discovery that quinine can be used to treat rheumatic diseases. That's why when you've autoimmune arthritis you get put on antimalarials first, such as hydroxychloroquine. I also think a nice G&T helps when you're flaring, takes the edge off the pain. The sack of Rome in 1527. The Holy Roman Empire was at war with a coalition that included France, a few Italian states, and the Pope. The Emperor, Charles V, hired mercenaries to bolster his numbers, but when he failed to pay them in time they mutinied. The mercenaries sacked Rome and captured the Pope. Eventually the war ended and Charles gained a lot of control over the church. Some years later in 1530 Charles directed the Pope to not annul the marriage between his beloved aunt, Catherine of Aragon, and her husband. Her husband was Henry VIII of England. Henry decided to ignore the Pope's decision, thus kicking off the English Reformation. A reduced honeybee population creates a domino effect in the food chain. Alfalfa, a crop that is pollinated by honeybees, plays a crucial role in keeping our environment healthy. Researchers have claimed that the extinction of just one animal has the potential to create a domino effect that could result in the extinction of many more species. Because alfalfa is the main food source for dairy cows and a secondary food source for beef cows, sheep and horses, the decline of alfalfa yield could be a devastating blow to the dairy and beef industries. Without enough alfalfa to feed livestock, they could become endangered or even extinct. Honeybees aren't native to North America. They were brought over by Europeans. Their decline has little effect on our ecosystem. It's native bee decimation that will affect our ecosystem. In 2004, during the halftime show of the Super Bowl event, Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson were performing and somehow Janet's nipple got slipped. This made big news. 3 guys working for PayPal heard of this and tried to find a video clip of it online, but they had no luck. So they quit PayPal and they decided to create a video streaming website. That site was finally created in 2005 and it became known as YouTube. TLDR, YouTube was created due to a nipple slip. I had no idea that PayPal was older than YouTube. I figured it was something of the last few years or decade, but not more than that. Interesting. Columbus discovered the West Indies. Pizarro follow him in South America. Spain bring potatoes to Europe. It becomes the main food of poor people in Ireland. The Irish potato famine in 1845 led to a massive migration to the EUA. The Kennedy family arrive in 1849. The moon in 1969. Potatoes grown in America, so the Irish moved there. The Irish moved to America cause it was one of the few places that would let them in during the famine. The potatoes wasn't a domino. The fall of the Aztec and Incan empires, caused in part by the conquistadors, led to massive reforestation in areas that were once designated for cities and farmland cleared for crops animals. This led to a massive fall in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which brought about around 200 years of excessively cold winters in Europe, leading to a mini ice age which ended around 1750. The Senate of Rome decides to kill the Gracchi for pushing through legislation in favor of land redistribution. Marius then revives this issue to pay his troops back for winning, so they could resettle in Italy, which causes Sulla to start a bloodbath in Rome, killing thousands. Sulla leaves his dictatorship, and Rome goes right back to squabbling between the rich and poor. Julius Caesar takes up the mantle of Marius and the Gracchi again, and succeeds in the reforms. Caesar conquers Gaul. That and his controversial land law causes hardline conservatives to oppose his coming home without being put on trial. Caesar crosses the Rubicon. Pompey goes to Greece. Caesar defeats Pompey. Caesar becomes dictator. The Senate stabs him and flees to Greece. His adopted son Octavian raises an army to fight the assassins. They win. Antony and Octavian go head to head. Octavian wins. Octavian, now Emperor Augustus, has 350,000 troops, and we're having land redistribution if you don't freaking mind. Now that's just a clusterfuck. 26-year-old Mohamed Bouazizi from Tunisia had been the sole income earner in his extended family of 8. He operated a food cart for 7 years in Sidi Bouzid, 300 kilometers south of Tunis. On the 17th of December 2010, a female officer confiscated his cart and produce. A humiliated Bouazizi went to the provincial headquarters in an attempt to complain to local municipality officials and to have his produce returned. He was refused an audience. Within an hour of the initial confrontation, Bouazizi returned to the headquarters, doused himself with a flammable liquid and set himself on fire. Public outrage quickly grew over the incident, leading to protests. This immolation, and the subsequent heavy-handed response by the police to peaceful marchers, provoked riots the next day in Sidi Bouzid. In an attempt to quell the unrest, President Ben Ali visited Bouazizi in hospital on the 28th of December. Bouazizi died on the 4th of January 2011. This act became a catalyst for the Tunisian Revolution and the wider Arab Spring protests, which led to Syrian civil war, Iraqi insurgency, the Egyptian crisis, Yemeni civil war, Libyan civil war, including the fall of Gaddafi, the refugee crisis, major unrest in the Middle East, proxy wars, power vacuums, the rise of ISIS, frequent terrorist attacks globally, the rise in popularity of right-wing politicians in Europe, the rise of Erdogan in Turkey, the election of Trump, Brexit and all that brings. So they should have left Mohamed Bouazizi alone. Stay tuned for more. My cabbages. Serbian national assassinates Austrian Archduke. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia declares intentions to defend Serbia. Austria-Hungary declares war on Russia. Russia declares intentions to defend Austria. Germany declares war on Russia. France declares intentions to defend Russia. Germany declares war on France. German invades Belgium. Great Britain declares war on Germany. Austro-Hungary invades Serbia. British Expeditionary Force arrives in France. Ottoman Empire joins Central Powers. Bulgaria joins Central Powers. Montenegro, Japan, Italy, United States, Romania, Portugal, Hejaz, China, Greece, Siam all joined the Allied Powers. 7.7 million deaths. Europe destroyed. Stage is set for World War II. Domino's pressuring drivers to deliver pizza in 30 minutes or less led to drivers crashing and them suing Domino's, which then removed the 30 minutes or less tag. Literally a domino effect, but with like only 3 dominoes. In 2007, the Writers Guild of America went on strike, leaving TV and movies without any writers for 4 months. This led to TV studios relying on shows that didn't require writing. talk shows, game shows, and reality shows. For example, NBC decided that in order to maximize ratings, they'd get celebrities to compete in one of their reality shows that had been sinking in the ratings. And so The Celebrity Apprentice premiered in January 2008. The season got ratings more than twice as high as the previous one, and led to host Donald Trump being a mainstay of network TV until February 2015. On the 16th of June, 2015, Donald Trump announced his candidacy for President of the United States. TLDR. If producers had just paid the writers, Donald Trump wouldn't have been the host of one of the most popular shows on TV for 7 years and probably wouldn't be president. Bro, since recorded history it has just been one massive domino effect that has led to world we live in today. A ape stood up and now we are here. Bro. How China didn't allow any girls to be born for generations and now all of China is dudes who can't get laid. Seriously mind-boggling, no one had the foresight on this. Have you ever heard the theory that everything is a chain reaction? Essentially the idea is that everything you or anyone says does, they say do because of their experiences, which were gained through past events, and of people who had other chain reactions. In other words, you're reading this right now because something changes in your day making you think you're free to use it, and you got that free time because someone cancelled their plans, and they cancelled because etc etc. I'm not sure how true it is, but it's kind of off-putting to think that your free will is literally just your reaction to a massive chain of events, and whatever you choose was always going to be your choice. Alfred the Great of England defeated a large army of Vikings. Some settled down in England, but others left and started attacking France. This was irritating to the French king, so he gave them land to stop attacking Normandy. Apparently the diameter of NASA rocket boosters are that way because of the width of modern roads, which are that way because it's as wide as 2 horses, which is how the width of roads have been determined since the ancient Romans or something like that. The size of some rocket boosters are directly traced back to the width of horses in ancient Rome. This is second-hand knowledge, and I'm probably misremembering. Gonna take this very literally. Domino Day 2009. In the Netherlands we used to have a yearly event where the goal was to break the world record for the most amount of dominoes toppled in one run. Sadly the event lost funding. 2009 was the last time and has been dead since then. But it is still amazing to watch. You can find almost every year on YouTube. Elian Gonzalez's mother dying on the raft from Cuba to Florida in 1999 decided who would be president during 9/11, which affected how our nation responded. If his mother had survived the raft trip, Clinton would not have been forced to send him back to Cuba, alienating the Cuban population of Florida and costing Al Gore the 2000 election. Florida could have swung the country in his favor. A different president in the early 2000s might have changed the course of the war on terror, or stopped it from happening entirely. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.